Like a Liga MX Paladin who fails multiple saving throws against MLS Chaos, the League's Cup quarterfinal matches happened on Wednesday, all four of them. I was in transit. I was flying back from New York through Houston, a delayed flight in Houston, spent several hours, had some questionable food as part of that layover and caught little glimpses of all of the games. I don't know how much of the Leagues Cup madness you got to see, but our hope, as you might recall a few weeks ago, was what did we want to see happen ultimately with Leagues Cup?
An actual Leagues Cup going into the semifinals, if not the finals. Solid, competitive, two different leagues competing. And
Right.
after two scoreless draws that went to PKs and
Yes.
two 2-1 score lines. Yeah.
Let's do these one by one. Okay. First of all, we had Miami Tigres, completely awesome matchup, right? That is what you want in a Leagues Cup,
A
right? You
perfectly
want
cromulent game.
Lionel Messi, you want Tigres and all the star power they bring, Nahul, literal magic in the goal. What happened there?
Miami won. Miami won
Yeah.
2-1 against Tigres
On
in
an
regulation.
89th minute penalty kick.
Yeah. Yeah.
After Tigres tied it. That seemed, I don't know, that seemed a little
solid competitive
right?
game. Solid competitive game. Yep. You want that kind of game between two giants.
You maybe don't want that to end in an 89th minute penalty kick.
That
is what happened.
Yeah.
All right. And then we moved to again the match that probably a lot of you missed because you were watching the end of Miami Tigres, which of course was Orlando Toluca in Dignity Health Sports Park, which is not particularly a home field advantage to either of those teams. What happened there?
Scoreless draw in regulation.
Yep.
And 6-5 in PKs.
Yeah.
Resulting
in who got the winning PK in the 7th round?
A goalkeeper, the best person to get a winning PK.
Pedro Daisy, the octopus, La Pulpa. Yeah. Not a field player in the 7th round, but they put their goalkeeper up, and lo and behold, he came through when the field player for Toluca did not, and there we go. We have 2 for 2 for MLS, and then we got to Seattle Puebla. And what happened there?
Scoreless draw.
Okay.
4-3 Seattle win in PKs.
Okay.
They were wearing the awesome Orca-themed jerseys.
They were, yeah. That was amazing.
I'm trying to get blood out of the stone, Phil. I'm trying to. I
did show my wife those uniforms as we were waiting for our delayed flight. She was not impressed.
Look,
which,
I
mean, she kind of got it, but
taste
at the
is
same
a personal
time,
thing.
Like, we all just wanted to get home. It was dominating.
Yeah.
And then we had the nightcap. We had LA Galaxy and Pachuca, and certainly with one last chance for Liga MX, Pachuca, perfectly fine Liga MX team, they could handle a potential wooden spoon winner into the LA Galaxy.
LA Galaxy, who have splinters in their tongues from having the wooden spoon so firmly wedged in their mouths all season. Certainly, Phil, Pachuca could beat LA Galaxy, right?
And yet,
after one of the latest starts in the history of late starts, 2-1 win for LA Galaxy, Phil.
Right. So did any Liga MX team prevail?
According to my math, no.
No. So are we going to then enjoy League Cup?
A League Cup is what we have. We have a Miami-Orlando derby in the East and a Seattle-LA Galaxy one in the West. And it's alternate reality MLS regular season cup competition. Also, Mexican teams were involved for exactly one round.
League Cup.
Emergency podcast. They did a thing, so we gotta talk about it. Emergency podcast. It's an emergency. Emergency podcast. Shut up, oh yeah, shut up, oh yeah, shut up. Emergency podcast. It's an emergency.
Hey a hearty hello to you all, and welcome to Emergency Podcast, the Austin FC podcast, where we talk about all the Austin FC emergencies. We did not record last week as I was dropping a child off at a certain Ivy League school after adventuring with a 8-year-old for several days in New York City. Terrified of losing said fearless 8-year-old in the subway. That did not happen. Everybody came home except for, of course, the child that we deposited at said Ivy League school. So we are back. We're here to talk about some Copa Tejas misery and some other things. Moisés, how are you doing, and how did you while away the week that we did not record?
I mean, I whiled it away not watching Leagues Cup, which I had originally planned on, but then when I realized it was all on one night, and that night in particular was not great for my schedule, guess what? I couldn't. And then it was all over. And so all of the energy and the drama, I caught a couple of clips, and then I watched Wrap Up that night as it aired. And watching their studio hosts on Season Pass trying to make something out of, well, we're doing all MLS in the semifinals again, huh?
Did we say this was bad back then? Several weeks ago, did we say this was a bad idea?
The thing is, the change in format was a good move, but I don't think they went hard enough. Or I don't know. There are more high level conversations that need to be had about what is going to make this competition work and what's going to ensure intra-league play. I feel like there's got to be a way to make this work better without it being at the cost of further increasing fixture congestion, further expanding the schedule, further doing any of that kind of stuff. Because in the group stage, I mean, it was there. The energy was there.
Yep.
It was, and then it just went off a cliff. So yeah, I was not watching Leagues Cup. I was not watching a triumphant Copa Tejas win. I was not watching an exciting transfer window. I'm previewing the entire episode now, Phil. And I was longing for true Quebecois poutine, something that has still evaded me, as my travels in Canada have only been across British Columbia, Alberta, and Ontario.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I've had authentic Quebecois poutine, and it's legit.
Yeah. I've
had
poutine
30 years ago when I was last there.
I've had it in many other parts of Canada, and it's been very, very good. But there's just something that hits different. It's like having a real legit Philly cheesesteak in Philadelphia. The cheese whiz just hits different.
Yeah, it is poutine in Quebec, and it is just fries and gravy in Anglo provinces.
Brown sauce, Phil. Brown sauce. It's not gravy.
All right. Well, let's talk about a certain weird email that hit our inboxes Thursday morning. I was just fresh off a bike ride to my day job and just went to check and see what was there. And lo and behold,
hold on, Phil. Hold on. I have to stop you. Of course, you must be mentioning the change in kickoff time for a match that doesn't happen until October, right?
No, because that was good news, because that bails me out a little bit on my ACL plans. I thought I was going to miss 2 or 3 bands that I actually wanted to see. Now I will still be able to see those bands, although I'm going to have to try to catch a ride share from ACL to Q2 Stadium in order to pull this off. But I'm prepared to do that. That was actually good news. I was happy to see that. I was also, there was another email that we got about a certain GAM move, which we are going to get to later. It allowed me to put on my playwriting hat and do a little bit of that work. So we'll see that in a second here. But the first one that we got, and again, very, very busy 2 days of emails from the club. So this was actually a Thursday morning, 8 a.m. email. Austin FC transfers Nicky Beloko. They announced that he was transferred to Swiss club Lausanne, which I think is actually Lausanne Sport from what I have seen in other sources. He recently arrived in Austin via free transfer, as we know, and he departs on a free transfer, with Austin retaining a 15% sell-on fee for a potential future transfer. Rodolfo Borrell allegedly said, according to the Can quote in the press release, "We made the decision to help Nicky return to Switzerland out of respect for personal circumstances. We wish him all the best in the next step of his career. As we enter this important final stage of the season, we remain confident in the quality and depth that we possess in central midfield." That's a little weird. What do you make of it?
Um, well,
What?
I something that I enjoy is catching up on Slack days late and catching up on it and seeing people talking about the three-dimensional chess of, so here's how they're going to use Beloko, and they're going to sell Owen in the last 12 hours of this transfer window, and Beloko's going to come in clutch, and Beloko's going to do this, Beloko's going to do that, and then he was gone with the wind. When it is classified as that kind of personal circumstances thing, speculating could go on as long as the day is.
Yep.
Whatever the reason, he played in that closed door friendly. He had teammates saying that he was presenting a good threat, also having issues with the climate. Could have just been those issues acclimating to the climate. People think that you can just drop any soccer player into Major League Soccer, and if they're a top level player, they should be able to just drop in anywhere, anytime, any place. It happens in the Saudi League. It happens in other leagues across the world when there's a big climate difference between, say, Central Europe, where a lot of what are considered the top of the top players are used to playing in a continent that believes in seasons, Phil. Not just summer, extended summer, early summer, extremely early summer, and extremely late summer. So, again, like we could fill hours speculating on what the actual personal circumstance was. He definitely looks happy to be at Luzon. At the end of the day, something that we've said is that as much as I know you were more anxious to see him in the 20 on the field, starting, getting out there playing, I was casting more doubt on how much of him we were going to actually see this season because of that Europe to the United States acclimation period that we've seen with various players adapting to MLS who aren't the Thomas Mullers who know that they are long enough in the tooth that they've just got to play with all the brakes off. Yeah, I don't know. I wish that we had actually gotten to see him play. Then I feel like I could have more of an actual opinion about it. I don't know that I go immediately to the catastrophizing that some have, which is, oh, what a giant disaster. The sporting operation needs to go back to sporting operations school. Blah, 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 blah. That's not what this says to me. If the player was just not going to be happy here, if they had something come up, if it was a matter of family stuff going on, there's only so much that I can begrudge a professional soccer player deciding to go for the contract rather than personal happiness. So I don't know.
And it is good that the club is not going to keep him here against his wishes. I mean, if he doesn't want to be here for whatever reason, and again, you could speculate, but it is a little weird that they did arranged back in January. This wasn't like spur of the moment thing. It wasn't just like he got here and was like, ew, America. Ugh, I want to go back to Switzerland. He had time to mull this over, and then he got here and he's been here for a while. And even before the transfer became official with the first day of the summer transfer window, it's a little strange. What this means basically is that Djordjevic is the only summer signing in a window that we thought was going to be pretty important, in a window that we thought was going to potentially bring a creative player, right? So a kind of chance creator, somebody that we were thinking would be helpful. We had visions of course, Tuti Andrade coming over and being at least a fun spark that probably would have taken a couple of years to develop, but in the meantime, fun for us in the audience watching the soccer being played. So so you have an underwhelming overall transfer window, backheeled, rated all the transfer windows. There are 30 MLS teams. Austin FC got rated 26th, and the Beloko thing was particularly perplexing to them. They think Djordjevic could actually turn out to be a good center back, which was my feeling too. But essentially, you've got Leo Väisänen replacement that I guess he just got here, so I doubt we're going to probably see much of him. I don't think we're going to see a start from him. We might see some limited runouts in subs towards maybe late September, October is kind of my prediction, but that is going to be the extent of what we see of Djordjevic for 2025, and then we'll probably see more of him in 2026. But it's a little puzzling, and again, my kind of read on the team is that there's enough talent to get to the playoffs, but I don't think there's enough talent to really do a lot in the playoffs. And certainly that hasn't changed in the summer transfer window, given what they haven't done. Sergio Santos is still out there. He had to get waived in order to make room for Brenner. Cincinnati is bringing back Brenner, which is weird. Paxton Aronson is going to Colorado. Dominic Fitz, who looks like he is pretty interesting, creative midfielder, number 10 that Minnesota has lacked since Nosa left. He got moved to the Loons, and so we may see him in that Open Cup semifinal. There are other teams that made some moves. There were offense players out there. Teams got them, and Austin did not.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how all of those splashy signings end up doing. They look good on paper. We also had a lot of excitement coming out of the winter window when it came to Austin.
Sure.
And then there was a lot of cohesion issues. There were a lot of gelling kind of issues, that sort of thing. Still are. To me, the solution to the creative midfielder need, it is playing on the second team right now, and it's Jorge Lastaway. But he got seriously injured early in the next pro season. And to me, that's why we haven't seen him getting call-ups and getting a supplemental contract for the first team. So many of the things that we keep talking about the first team needing, this guy delivers in spades. He is somebody that watching him, I am constantly, more so than CJ Fodre, more so than other folks that I've said this about on the second team, 100% too good for that league. 100%.
You think he's on the level then? You think he's on the 100% MLS level?
He could be playing top flight MLS soccer right now. He's got the pedigree from La Masia. He's not just the pedigree. He puts up the numbers. He puts up the fight. He's got every bit of the confidence that you want in somebody wearing a number 10. I think that maybe going into the back half of the season, maybe we see him continue to prove himself on the second team and finally get some of those call-ups, especially at points when we're missing people on yellow card suspension, when the roster depth gets a little thinner after hard-fought theoretical Open Cup championship. You've said in the newsletter a number of times, Austin has one of the easiest back half schedules. At the same time, an easy schedule is still always hard-fought, and you never know what kinds of injuries get picked up and what kind of tread comes off the tires. My hope is that I don't think that transfer windows solve everything. I think internal development is a big part of it. And now that they have a little bit of runway with the completely overhauled second team and academy setup, maybe we see some of those kinds of solutions coming from within.
Well, I hope you're right. starting with this week, right? I mean, in terms of thinking about Yanni Pereira's on a yellow card suspension, we'll see, I guess, in about 20 minutes here, if Alice Dewey does get activated for this match against Los Dos, as they used to be called, the Galaxy number 2. They are now Ventura County. Yeah. So as we pointed out before, that is like having a San Marcos team have their second team play in Georgetown. It's kind of that setup. Good old Ventura County. But yeah, we'll see if he indeed is going to still get second team minutes, or if there is maybe kind of a weird outside chance that Alice Dewey might find his way onto the 20 this weekend, which would be pretty interesting. So
might be. I mean, it could be that Irvin Torres gets that call up instead of him. It depends on what they're looking for and what they've seen in training.
Yep. By the time we finish this podcast, and by the time you finish listening, you will already know because you're listening to this on Saturday morning. But indulge us as we peruse a second team roster in a little bit here. But let's go on to some other things. So this transfer window did actually produce something. Speaking of emails that we got from the club, we got something on Friday morning here at 9:30 a.m. Austin acquires $125,000 in general allocation money from which team?
The New England Revolution.
The New England Revolution. This sounds familiar, right? You'll remember a couple weeks ago, we did a one-act play Gambarito, which talked about Austin moving a international spot over to New England, which they had to then give up to Vancouver and had to pay a lot of money doing that just because Philly would not sell spot to New England directly. So Austin had to be the go-between for that. So yeah, so that happened. And rather than just tell you the dry details of that particular transfer of Gam for international spot, we had to write a sequel to Gambarito. So We have the world debut tonight or this morning, depending on when you were listening, or this afternoon. It is theater straight to your ears, straight to your podcast,
The
anytime you want
theater
to
of the
listen to
mind.
it. Exactly. But yeah, there we have Gamburrito 2, the world debut of that happening. And we're going to reprise our roles from last time. So you are going to play the part of Moisés, which of
Okay.
course is Austin FC.
Yes.
I'm going to play me again, and I am the hapless New England Revolution.
Okay.
And yeah, we'll just take it from there, and we're setting the scene. So basically, you might recall from last time, Gam was represented by a burrito, and I bought that burrito and then had to turn it over to Vancouver. I was not able to enjoy it myself. So if you think about motivations for characters, hunger was still mine. There's hunger and disappointment. Moisés, what is your motivation now that
Uh,
you were successfully baking that sale in Gamburrito? Like, what are you looking to do in
I
Gamburrito 2, do you
mean,
think?
fictional money laundering, um, uh, arbitrage, the gamesmanship of it all. It's not about the
Okay.
burrito. It's about the concept of the burrito, what the burrito represents, what the burrito allows me to do, what the burrito
Okay.
allows me to induce others to do. It's a quantum burrito of
Okay.
sorts.
So you have a more self-actualized kind of motivations. You're more Machiavellian in yours, and
It's
mine is more
yeah.
pure id, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
this it's so much more looking at where the puck is going, not where the puck is right now, that sort of thing. But I don't want to talk too much about process because there has to be some mystery left for the audience.
Whereas I just want to figure out a way to eat the puck and be able to digest
All right,
it.
good. So
That's fine.
we've done our recap of previously on Gamburrito, caught everybody up on the lore, reminded everyone of the mise en scène. I'm ready. You cue me
All right.
and tell me when we're ready to go.
Okay. Gamburrito 2, a one-act play by Phil West.
Transition.
Man, I find myself with another burrito I'm not going to eat. What should I do with it? I know what I'll do. Hey, Phil.
Hello again.
I have another burrito you might want.
I'm not paying what I paid last time.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Tell you what, you can give me $5 now.
And
$7.50 later.
well, that is better than last time. And at least I get to enjoy this one myself.
Oh, hey, I got Thomas Muller and I really like him, eh?
And scene. All right.
Yeah,
we had to bring Vancouver back in there.
Yep. Yeah, a guest actor who got fired from The Kids in the Hall did us a solid, gave us a one-line read, and we'll forever be thankful.
It's beautiful. All right. So that happened. So yeah, 50,000 in 2025 GAM, 75,000 2026 GAM, an international spot that guess Austin's not going to use on a new player. So, might as well give that to New England. And New England, actually, though, they did use that on a striker. There's an Israeli international striker that they got that they're very excited about. So they actually got to expend this on a real player versus having to float it over to Vancouver. So that's good on them. Certainly that's going to save their season. They also got Matt Turner. So, I mean, we can laugh about New England, but they kind of had a better window than Austin did.
Well,
right?
but they lost Maxi Urruti, Phil. They waived Maxi Urruti. I mean,
did they lose him?
What? I mean, did they lose him? Did he lose them? According to an Instagram
is it
story
addition
post
by
of
subtraction?
his. Well, an Instagram story post of his alluded to him not being the problem, and I'm like,
oh, okay.
Maxi, never change. I love you. I love.
Did he post from Sebastian Driussi's house?
I mean, something like that. I don't know. I love the Riz on these guys. I got waved by the New England Revolution. I wasn't the problem. Caleb Porter's the problem. Peace. That's classic.
Can people in the greater Boston area now buy a pool table from him?
Maybe. I don't know. Felipe got into real estate down in Brazil. Yeah. No, I think it'll be interesting to see how this actually turns out for the Revs. And it could be that they have a spectacular slide below the playoff line toward the end of the season, even with all of this bolstering. And that sure would be an indictment on their sporting operation because it would be difficult to blame the players at that point. Yeah, I don't know. What's
They're kind of already there, right?
yeah.
So I mean,
What's it like to have an exciting summer transfer window, Phil? I don't even know what that's like anymore.
yeah, if you're doing a Nicky Beloko revolving door and you're getting $125,000 in GAM and you're not excited about that, I kind of wonder about your excitement levels as an Austin FC fan, but really I don't. Yes, I can understand the disappointment that everybody might have. So
Yeah.
speaking of disappointment, should we talk about Copa Tejas and how it means nothing anymore?
What? I don't know what that is.
Any
It's
thoughts about
like
that Dallas match, which was pretty odious?
it was not great. The Houston match before it was also not great, including an after the fact acknowledgement by Pro that the review that led to a penalty kick that did completely change the complexion of that game should not have been advised.
A penalty that did not get called on the field.
Uh-huh. That was specifically right in front of the ref. This is something that extends past. It's real easy for to be somebody who covers a specific team and see things a certain way and constantly come back to the refrain of, oh, the officiating is the worst, the officiants hate us. I think my point is more that there is some sort of an issue with Varlington. There is
Mhm.
something going on where the writer's room that is video review is acting as the invisible hand of soccer in MLS, and it's driving me crazy. Like
Mhm.
completely up the wall crazy. It's driving Leo Messi crazy. It's driving lots of people crazy at varying income levels. Myself and Leo Messi at very disparate points ourselves. It's something that is not just changing a result here and there, it is changing the course of the entire season for different clubs. That if that call had not gone the way that it did, I'm not
Mhm.
saying that Austin would have sailed to a win in both matches,
Right.
but there would have been a different head of steam on them coming out of the Houston match with 3 points.
I think they'll
I,
win the Houston match for sure.
I
Yeah.
think they
I
win the
yeah.
Houston match for sure. And coming out of it with a win, going into the Dallas match with 3 of the 6 points they needed from those back-to-back weekends,
And not being eliminated from Copa Tejas.
and not going into it being eliminated really would have
Right.
changed that match.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. It was good to see Owen in the Dallas
Yeah.
match get his goal. And again, yeah, the fact that they were able to come back from that going down was weird and fluky, but that goal again, yes, there was a lapse on defense that the entire team seemed to suffer on that play. It was a really weird play, but those things do happen. With that Houston match, that was interesting. I mean, Pro did give us rationale for making that call, even though as it turns out,
They changed their
Pro said,
mind
"Oh,
24
we
hours
should not
later.
have made that." Yeah, but they did. But they did fill in. They did provide justification for something that they then said, "Oh, yeah, we never should have done this. We didn't call this on the field." It was interesting that they filled in that little piece of the narrative, and then to actually admit they did not have to admit that they made that mistake. They could have just let that sail on. I think those 2 points are going to be pretty integral come the end of the season. I don't think it necessarily keeps Austin out of the playoffs, although it certainly could, just given how tight the West race is and given where Austin is in relation to all the teams. Did something from New Haven on Tuesday where we were vacationing, stepped back and looked at all the teams in that kind of middle tier between 6th and 12th to see where everybody is, what matches they had, how things are going to look. And it is going to be really tight. And I do think that certainly Austin can get themselves out of that play-in game, but losing those 2 points against Houston might be the difference between getting a relatively easier time into a 6th or a 7th seed versus having to scrap their way into an 8-9 play-in game and then
Mm-hmm.
as a result getting the top team, which right now is San Diego, which right now is probably not going to go well given how the season went. And oh yeah, San Diego has also made some moves in the summer, whereas Austin's not.
Yeah. The results of these two games does have a bearing on not just making the playoffs, but what making the playoffs means.
Mhm.
And it'll be interesting to see what happens in Montreal, where if they come back with 3 points from that match, and they've been there once before, they've been there
Mhm.
and they've brought 3 points back from Stade Saputo once.
Weirdly. Yep.
So let's see if they can do it again. And if they can, then that bears well going into a grudge match at home against San Jose.
Right.
which let's not be taken by any illusions. That's a grudge match. The emerging rivalry between Austin and San Jose has more than emerged. It's not on
Yep.
its way there. It is a
Yep.
solid every season bitter fight, especially
Mhm.
after eliminating the Twin Cup in their own house.
And the way in which
There's
that happened.
yeah,
The
there's got
blood
the literal blood and sweat and tears. Crocodile tears, but tears all the same.
still counts.
Still counts. I think that there's been a lot of doomsaying. There's been a lot of regressing to patterns from the last couple of years. I don't think that the season is a wash. I don't think that Open Cup is the only thing to care about in the way that LA Galaxy is only caring about Leagues Cup at this point, because what do they really have otherwise to hope for? It feels to me like there is still that solid dream of a decent playoff run, but to go to Roto's attributed quote from the Beloko transfer press release, they've got to prove that they are actually as confident in the players that they've got here as they say that they are.
Mhm.
And they've got to bolster them with the confidence that they need to prove the doubters wrong. The every year traditional refrain of people doubting them, including their own fans.
I do think it's interesting that when Nico was talking about the players that he was confident in, that included Hodder Obrian, who seemed like he was on his way out. I'm really surprised that like he was not somebody who was a summer transfer window exit. And then Robert Taylor, who of course has yet to get an Austin FC start, and then did have that penalty. Again, that penalty that shouldn't have been called, but that has been his, for lack of better moments, a signature moment for him, save for, of course, he did have the goal at the end of the game against DC. So there was that kind of one good moment from him. But for the most part,
Mm.
he's been fairly undistinguished in his time in Verde, which has been unfortunate. Thought when he came on, oh, this is a player who can be actual difference maker, can plug right in, can play at several different positions, will fit right into the scheme. It seems like it's taken him a while. I don't understand necessarily what is necessarily going on between him and Estevez, but it doesn't seem like it's altogether great. But yet, Estevez mentioned him, Obrian, and then, of course, some players that are more evidently reliable that he actually has started in matches and all that. We are at this kind of point in the season where we'll see some difference, obviously necessitated by the Pereira yellow card suspension that is happening this week, but he's pretty much locked into a roster of 14 or 15 people, and that's his comfort spot, and that's what he seems to be gravitating towards. And it's a fine group, but I don't know that it's necessarily a great group or a group that is going to do well matching up against a San Diego or a Vancouver or a Seattle or an LAFC, which is ultimately in the playoffs what's going to need to happen. Ultimately, Austin's going to run into one of those teams, and I don't think Austin's going to fare well against any of those teams.
That's the hump they've got to get over. Is
Yep.
reflexively, I feel the same way. Is I don't see them getting over that hill at this point. I've got to see them prove to themselves that they are as unflappable as their coach believes they can be. As I know that a lot of
Right.
them think that they can be, if not for lousy calls, if not for occasionally a teammate deciding he's just not going to run and he's just going to let a bad play get him down rather than stay in the game and get back at maintaining possession. Seeing more of those kinds of lapses, that's what causes that late season backslide. And that's what they've got to avoid.
Mhm. Yeah, because they've had that in years past. And
Oh, yeah.
again, having Azuni being the kind of player that we think he could be would be something that would help with that. There are a couple of players away still, which is why the summer transfer window is so disappointing, because this seems like, oh, this would have been an optimal time to try to do that. They don't have a lot of roster flexibility, but at least they did have some potential latitude to make some interesting moves. And if they really needed to, they had a buyout, they had some opportunity to potentially move some players. Again, I'll be curious to see if Roto does, he customarily does a post summer transfer window. press conference. So I'll be curious, first of all, to see if he really does want to get out in front of media to talk about this, and then what kind of things he might say. I imagine that he'll say, oh yeah, we had a bunch of things that we were trying to work out and we just couldn't get there for whatever reason. I don't think they stood pat necessarily, but it's a little frustrating to see other teams making some difference making moves and seeing Austin do what they did. And again, yeah, being in this place where, okay, you got two DPs over the window. One is now having to come back from injury, and one has had little blips where he's been effective, but for the most part has been pretty ineffective.
I feel like we may get one of those. He's not afraid of talking to the press. Never really
No.
has been.
No.
And I feel like it's the sort of thing that getting out in front of things, not really getting out ahead of things, because he's coming around the backside of it. It just because the window closed doesn't mean that some sort of domestic deal didn't get struck, because they don't have to disclose that publicly until if and when they want. But
Right.
knowing how leaky the league is, it'd be surprising for something like that to have gone down and it not to have leaked at this point, as as fast and thick as those kinds of leaks were flying around. So it'd be interesting to see if something ends up happening and there is some just add water, just drop in bit of magic that happened from elsewhere in the league. Even don't know who that person is. I don't even have a short list of names. I don't even have a name that could be. But I feel like even if there's nothing like that materializing, as we assume it isn't, there is something to having the sporting director speaking to the quality of the roster, the quality of the players, the state of things, how he sees the campaign. I don't know. Maybe we talk to him soon. Maybe we talk to him on the other side of an Open Cup semifinal victory. Maybe. To me, it's a question of when they position that. If they're just sending him out there to get battered by all of us who want to know what their actual expectations are, what their standards are for the rest of the season, how he sees the level of competition in the league and so on, maybe that doesn't benefit them to trot him out now than to trot him out when he has something to say on the heels of some of that actual progress being made.
To answer the question that we put forth earlier, a lineup has dropped for Austin FC2. So Torres will be playing for Austin FC2 tonight. Alastuwe will be playing for Austin FC2 tonight. Micah Burton, who we didn't mention, but was always a possibility out there, he will also be playing for Austin FC2 tonight. One name that I see that is conspicuously absent is CJ Fodry. So I guess that is
CJ on the plane.
Answering our question. We're going to get him, I imagine, in the 20 and maybe some limited minutes against Montreal, which again, yeah. I think, again, yeah, with Montreal, obviously, Nico mentioned Prince Uwosu, who, as I talked about in the article today, was rivaling Vasquez and Azuni for the worst G minus XG in the league. So that's goals minus expected goals, but now has come into form. He's got 11 goals on the season. And then Dante Seeley, who was a Dallas player. So Nico has coached him, has some experience, knows who he is, certainly the second on the team with 4 goals. So I think clearly it starts with stopping Owusu, right? They've got a player, they were even active. Ivan Jaime is coming in from FC Porto, but of course he's not going to be ready at this stage of things. He just got transferred. That has happened. So yes, even Montreal is a little more active in the window than we are, but they don't have that much talent overall. It's a pretty thin team. They have been struggling. You can look at the table. You can see their record. You can see where they're at. You can see their goal differential. On paper, this does seem like a very winnable game.
Completely agree. Very much the kind of match that I expect them to hang a handful of points on them and come home with 3 points. That just, that's what these players are capable of. It's a matter of whether they go out there and get it. I think that having to make some modifications in the midfield because Danny's not available, that's what happens with the yellow card suspensions. And let's see what that slightly different starting lineup is going to be like and how it coheres and how it plays. You know, that to me is an opportunity to look at how they make those kinds of shifts, because look, Danny did go out injured earlier this season. What if he re-aggravates that injury? Austin is not a team that can be relying on exactly the same playmakers always starting. And the more comfortable this lineup gets with rotating in various different positions, I think the better. I would honestly like to see a couple more Jean Kolmanich starts over
Okay.
Biru because it keeps Biru hungry and similar kinds of dynamics. It's not just make these guys fight for their spots, it's make them come off of the bench hungry and come in clutch and put up another couple of points 20 minutes left in the game, that kind of thing. That's the sort of thing that, depending on how they end up putting together their starting lineup for Montreal, we could see some interesting change in dynamics that honestly feels like what this team needs more than anything at the moment is change things up a little bit. Don't get locked into this is always the lineup. This is always who's going to start here and there and who's going to more reliably feed the ball to who and that sort of thing. I think that some of that complacency has been part of what's bitten them the last few weeks.
Yeah. And that's the thing. On paper, yeah, this feels like a 2-0, 2-1, 3-1 sort of win for Austin. But
Solid.
given where they've been the last couple of weeks and given that this is on the road, and this is kind of a long trip, I am a little worried. I tend to be optimistic in these kind of predictions. I'm not as optimistic this time. I would love to see that win. Obviously, I think that will help them a bunch. They do have the opportunity, should results break, to get up to 6th or down to 9th, depending on what happens. So they're not going to move out of a playoff place based on this game. And again, we might have the semantic argument. I consider 8th and 9th, they're part of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So if you play match 35, then you are in the playoffs. So they're not going to get out of the top 9 spots with a loss here, regardless, even if San Jose wins. But San Jose would leapfrog them. That's going to make for an interesting dynamic headed into next week's match. But I do think that if they win and those other results break right, that does give them some cushion. That does help. We talked about in the article on Tuesday, and we've talked about this before, this kind of idea of this mythical 45 points. If you can get to that most years, you're in the playoffs. They're 10 points out from that right now. They're on 35 points. And the other weird thing that happens is if they win this, they will, with 8 games left in the season, have equal amount of points at home and at away with the same amount of games played. So that's pretty interesting, that kind of level of consistency. So all they need to do is win, and they will have gotten as many home points as road points at this kind of late stage of the season.
Like I said, I feel like they could hang multiple points on Montreal away. As in their previous meeting, I think it's more likely that we see a 1-0 to the Arsenal, as the Arsenal chant goes. I feel like a 1-0 is totally doable. Is it exciting? Is it sexy? Is it what everybody wants to see? No, but it's a win, and those 3 points spend. Yeah. So I feel like looking at that as the floor, and anything under that, honestly, a bit of a disappointment, I think is a reasonable way to go into this match. You've got to have expectations. You've got to hold people to standards, or people get away with whatever they want.
The last time they played in Montreal, which was June 2022, they
Danny
won
Pereira, second yellow, red card.
Yep. And who scored that goal?
Who scored that goal, Phil?
He's now available. Maxi Urruti.
Maxi Urruti. That was my long play joke that I was stacking up, because in looking at the stat summary for that match, it had his full name spelled all the way out, Maximiliano Urruti. And I'm like, wow.
And he was a former Montreal player too.
Former Montreal player. Yeah, but yeah,
among other teams.
On the stat summary, they really called him in like his mother did for dinner, with his full name.
All right. So any other reflections on this Montreal game?
We've got another watch party to tell people about, Phil. Saturday for this Montreal watch party, Los Verdes is kicking things off at 5:30, an hour before actual kickoff at 6:30 Central Time, out at Brutorium Brewery and Kitchen. It's all ages. There's a big indoor screen, free parking. If you've ever wanted to do Celtic axe throwing, Phil, guess what? They got you covered. If you want to munch on a pretzel while doing Celtic axe throwing, Phil, they've also got you covered. I can personally attest to the quality of the pretzels at Brutorium. This is not a thing that I recommend lightly. I'm a big stickler on the quality of pretzels, flat white coffee beverages. There's certain things that I'm very particular about. Pretzels are one of them, and the Brutorium one definitely passes mustard, as it were.
Right. Oh, good one. You meant to do that clearly. And also, typically I would say 8 minutes from my house, but I'm without a car at this point in my life. But is 20-minute bike ride from my house. So it's pretty close. I may actually make it out there depending on how I feel. I know there's a little kind of quiet spot in the back where I could theoretically do a press conference. So I am mulling it over. It is, yeah, it is reasonably close to where I live, and it is fairly central as I'm fairly central. It is right off airport, a little north of 290.
So you may very well have an opportunity for a sweaty Phil West photo op if you get out to Brutorium.
Yes, and hopefully I will have the bike ride and then de-sweatify before the game starts. Hopefully it will not like you will not have to accost me while I am still recovering from being out in the sun.
But yeah, go hang out, and various people will be there who can fill you in on a really cool TIFO takeaway event that Los Verdes is
Ooh,
holding the next day. Where,
okay.
if you remember the Hasta la Muerte bat TIFO, it's
Mm.
getting cut up. It's getting cut up and repurposed, making it so
Oh,
that people can frame it, can have tote bags made of it, that sort of thing.
ooh,
If
okay.
you're already a Los Verdes member, then you've already gotten info about that in your email. But that is a cool, interesting, first of its kind of thing within the supporters culture. So check out Los Verdes on Sunday for the TIFO takeaway event.
All right. So yeah. And then just coverage wise, I thought I was going to be at a wedding. Instead, I am going to be dog sitting the rest of my family as a wedding. So match coverage will happen as normal. You will get an at the whistle. And then, of course, you will get quotes on Sunday morning from whatever Nico and whichever player they make available, since it is an away match, give us on Saturday evening after that match is done. And then, of course, by the end of Saturday night, we'll have a better sense of the playoff picture as that rounds into form. Austin does have 9 games left. Most of the other teams have 7 or 8 that Austin has to worry about. So we are getting into the places where teams are going to start to get eliminated, and we're going to begin to get a little bit better understanding of where that top 4 is and kind of where the rest of those teams slot in. Again, obviously, theoretically, anything can happen mathematically, and Austin could go on a tear, and a bunch of teams above them could falter. Obviously, you would probably count at this point on Austin being in that back half of the playoffs or not making the playoffs.
Well, Phil, what a wonderful optimistic note to end on. I've got something funny. I just texted you a couple of images. Speaking of supporter culture, something that folks picked up on because of the algorithmic genius that is Facebook Marketplace is that
Mm.
somebody put up for sale a listing called Austin FC Yeti and Swag,
Oh,
which
yeah.
included a man of the match cooler, drum mallets, and swag from what people have deduced was the Moussa Djitte hat trick game. When a player has to move across an ocean, they're not exactly figuring out how they're going to pack a Yeti cooler
Mhm.
because international moving is not cheap. At last report, allegedly they dropped the price to 500, and somebody or another registered their actual interest. And so it remains to be seen as to whether Moussa Djitte's cooler is going to come home to the fans somehow. So stay tuned, and we will report on this developing story as it continues to develop.
I mean, I kind of want that cooler.
Yeah. I mean, do you $500 want it?
500's not a lot for a Yeti.
Is that not less than those things cost new, right? Like those are
No, they're a
normally
little
500,
less than 500, but
$550.
not.
But no, it's the heavy duty one. I think that's the one that goes for 550 or 600. I
Okay.
don't know. We're going to do the hard journalistic rigor on this and come back next week with some more intel for people in theory. But yeah, I just thought that bore interesting mention. How many of those coolers did Sebastian Driussi have stacked up in his garage, and where did they go? Like,
Well,
he
maybe
had,
they're
what,
one
a
of
dozen of them?
his. Maybe they're one of his. Maybe he gifted it to somebody who was like, "Oh, I really need a
No,
cap."
this is it's because of the
You think Driussi took
specific.
all his coolers?
I don't know that he took all of his coolers, but this one, there were some notes of the provenance of it that indicated that it was specifically a Moussa Djitte cooler because of the
Okay.
things in it and because of the design of it. It was specifically from that match.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, good. I guess we'll leave it there. Cooler mysteries abounding. We will try to figure that out next week, as well as everything else that we are going to talk about. Clearly, of course, wrapping up this Montreal match, getting into the San Jose match, and then if anything magical has happened in the transfer window that we don't yet know about, that leaks out that
Who knows?
actually happened, we'll talk about that as well.
This is the best thing I've heard in the history of the 8 years I've been on this planet.